This is the METS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The New York Mets get just enough from their offense, and as has been the story through these first 10 games of the season, the Mets pitching staff once again answers the call. Welcome in to the Locked On Mets postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel. I'm your postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the season, your hangout spot. Once the Mets action is over, we break it all down here for you after these games are complete. It is 5 in a row for the New York Mets. They open this series against Miami with a victory. Ryne Stanek picks up his first save as a Met. Kodai Senga picks up a win in his first home start of the season on what was a cold night at Citi Field. And you want to know how cold it is right now in New York? During this game, during a game in which it was cold and you could see that the guys really needed to kind of get into the flow of this game, they moved up the start time for tomorrow's game. That's how cold it is going to be. So if you're anticipating that 7:10 start tomorrow and you weren't necessarily seeing that on the broadcast, they moved that start time up tomorrow to 4:10 Eastern time instead of 7:10 Eastern time because of how cold it was. And you saw the cold weather be a problem early. I think that was one of the main reasons why Kodai Senga had the problems that he did at the start of the game, specifically in the first inning. Just really couldn't get a feel for his pitches. The broadcast kind of talked about it, but Kodai Senga probably not used to pitching in this cold weather. And that ghost fork requires some precision, requires you to really have a good feel for how it's going to break off on a cold night where, let's face it, didn't matter how hard you hit the ball, it wasn't getting out on a night like tonight. But the Mets offense does just enough. And I think this is the takeaway that I want to have from this game, because we can continue to heap praise on the pitching staff. And I see you in the comments already in the live chat talking about the team ERA so far and how good the pitching has been and how they can't carry the whole season. I hear you. We'll talk about how good the pitching was here in just a little bit. But I think we're going to break this out early because something happened in today's game that I think is a sign of things to come.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Let's talk about the top of the New York Mets lineup. Let's talk about 1, 2, and 3. Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, and Pete Alonso. You know that Pete Alonso has been the fire starter for the New York Mets. He has been the one constant of this offense through the first 10 games of the season, waiting for everybody else to catch up to him. Tonight might have been the night where things started to turn. Francisco Lindor, 3 for 4. Julian, I see you pointing out in the YouTube chat about Lindor bunting being a nice surprise. He found ways to just get on base tonight. 3 hits. Well, it was 3 for 4, scored a run. That's what Lindor is supposed to be, and that's what makes him such a great table setter for this team. He understands that he doesn't need to try to swing for the downs every single time he is up at bat. And his 3 hits tonight, a little bloop hit, the bunt, and then smoked a nice opposite field single. All 3 singles tonight, but you like to see him just getting on base, passing the baton to Juan Soto, to Pete Alonso, allowing those guys to drive in runs. Juan Soto had the winning hit in this game. He had an RBI double in the 3rd inning that put the Mets in front 1-0. That was the only run that they needed tonight. But 3 hits from Lindor, 2 hits from Soto, 2 hits from Pete Alonso. Of the 9 Mets hits, those 3 guys combined for 7 of them. So I see that you look at the box score, you see that the Mets only scored 2 runs, you see that they had to scratch and claw an insurance run across in the 8th inning, and I understand the concern, but if Lindor is going to be able to do that every night, if Soto's starting to come out of it and is going to start depositing the ball into the gap like he did tonight, it was a cold night, that ball was never getting out, and if Pete's going to continue to smoke the ball the way that he did, 113.9 exit velo on the double, and the Mets were kind of unlucky there that the ball careened off the wall the way that it did. If that thing gets stuck in the corner, Soto scores easily and the Mets get their insurance run an inning earlier. He's hitting the ball really well. And so I think you can have a good takeaway from tonight's game of the top 3 guys in this lineup are supposed to be the tone setters. And I know there was some concern going into the season about Pete being the number 3 hitter, but if Lindor's starting to turn a corner, if Soto's going to be able to start putting the ball in play, he's still taking his walks, and if Pete's going to continue to be this version of Pete, I think this offense is going to start to put some runs across the board, and we're going to see this offensive explosion that we are waiting to see. We've really only had it in one game this season, but the Mets do just enough, and they do just enough because of who they had on the mound tonight. And it wasn't just the guy who started the game. We will talk about Kodai Senga and Jose Butto. We have a new pronunciation for one of the strongest Mets relievers. We will talk about the way Carlos Mendoza deployed his bullpen. We'll give out the Player of the Game award as well. We will do all of that here on the other side. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients is also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Whether you're recovering after a workout or you need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Game time, there's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And maybe on a night like tonight, being bundled up there in front of the Citi Field crowd. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever with last minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as game times get closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. The Game Time Picks feature that makes finding the best deals effortless, filters out the fluff, and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. You got the seat view right before you buy. I love this feature that you're able to see and preview the exact seat that you are going to be sitting in before you purchase. There are no bad surprises when you get to the stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Welcome back into the Locked On Mets postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel and the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I see everybody in the live YouTube chat excited to be here after another Mets win, 5 in a row for the New York Mets. And you have to be excited that they're finding ways to win these games when not everything's clicking, not everything's coming together. Only are able to scrape 2 runs across, but it is good enough. Why? Because the Mets pitching continues to be the story. It was Kodai Senga on the mound tonight for his first home start. And the final line, 5 innings, 5 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Worked out of some trouble there in the first inning. Got a pair of double plays in the 4th and the 5th inning to get him out of some jams there. And they are taking it easy with Senga coming back from the injuries. Made the 1 start last year and then was available to the Mets in the postseason. So they are taking things slowly. 77 pitches tonight and 77 pitches in his first start. So they are not pushing him. You thought maybe with the way that he got out of the 5th, they could have seen a 6th inning, but it does not feel like they want to press things, especially on a cold night in April. So makes sense there. And the Mets tonight did not have their A relievers. Edwin Diaz had worked the last 2 days. AJ Minter, Reed Garrett, and Max Kranick worked yesterday as well, but those guys hadn't pitched back-to-back days. Stanek hadn't pitched since Wednesday, so even before the game developed the way that it did, you could kind of see the way Mendoza was going to use his bullpen tonight. It was Danny Young who got the draw in the 6th, got him in to face a lefty to start the inning, which I thought was really good for his confidence, and he had a nice inning of work. And then it's Jose Butto, as the broadcast has pointed out. It is not Butto, it's Butto. Jose Butto, 2 scoreless innings, allowed the 1 hit, walked a guy in 2 strikeouts. And this is just where the Mets bullpen thrives, because You know that you've got 2 more games in this series. You know that after your day off on Thursday, you play 13 straight days. You have to really be careful with this bullpen. And so you don't want to have to use Minter on back-to-back days if you don't have to. You don't want to use Reed Garrett on back-to-back days if you don't have to. The same thing with Kranick. So you ask Butto, who didn't pitch on Sunday, pitched on Saturday, 32 pitches against Toronto. You ask him to be a double setup man to get the 7th and the 8th. And then you can go to Ryne Stanek, who hadn't pitched since Wednesday, and you're able to get Diaz the rest that he needs. He should be good to go tomorrow. You get AJ Minter and Reed Garrett their rest. They should be good to go tomorrow. So you now have your A relievers. And oh, by the way, since Butto pitched 2 innings tonight, you now have Max Kranick and Huascar Brazoban ready for that multi-inning relief role. So for the criticism that we've given at times, especially on these postcasts for Carlos Mendoza, with the way that he's handled the pitching staff at times, I thought tonight was a masterclass of utilizing the guys you have to give the important dudes days off that needed it, to make sure that you have your A relievers for tomorrow, for the rest of this series, and for the daunting task that is coming up. And the Mets, they got the insurance run they needed late via Tyrone Taylor, who got into the starting lineup for the first time in a while. And as Julian mentions in the YouTube chat, everyone doing their part. It's not pretty, but it's looking like every win is very team-oriented. We call them team wins here on the show, right? It's not perfect. It's not pretty, but I'll ask you, did you feel stressed at any point? Maybe when Danny Young first came into the game? I don't know, though. It just didn't feel like this game was ever in doubt because of the confidence that we all should have in the way this Mets bullpen has been performing this season. I mean, maybe you were a little concerned that Stanek hadn't pitched in 4 days and the rust that comes with that. But, I mean, you are just getting everything that you need to get from this Mets pitching staff and this Mets bullpen. And once you start to get the length from the starters, hopefully by turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 through the rotation, we get that. I think you're going to see this bullpen unlock even more because you won't have to use 4 or 5 guys every single night. Let's give out the Player of the Game award, and we are going to give it to somebody on the offense. Yes, somebody on the offense is getting the Player of the Game award today.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Let's go Juan Soto. 2 for 3, an RBI, had a walk. Technically, his RBI hit is the winning hit for the Mets. It was the only run that they needed, and I thought he took some really good at-bats tonight. Certainly seemed like he was getting more comfortable in the box, and so we'll give it to Juan Soto tonight. You could have easily given it to Lindor. You could have given it to Jose Butto. You could have given it to Kodai Senga, a bunch of different candidates for this game, but we'll give it to somebody on the offense. We'll give it to Juan Soto for the RBI that put the Mets in front. The turning point in this game, we won't press the fancy button. I thought the back-to-back double plays that the Mets turned in the 4th and 5th innings to get Kodai Senga out of jams were key. Keep the lead right where it was at and allow you to get into that bullpen and feel good about where things stand. But let's also quick, before we get out of here, talk about, I haven't seen really anybody. Let me just scroll back up here and make sure that nobody mentioned this in the comments. I am surprised that there isn't some more happiness for the at-bats that Mark Vientos drew tonight. 0 for 1, but hit a bullet that got snagged by a really good defensive play in left field by Conine, and then drew 3 walks. That is a real key thing to see from a guy who's struggling, that he's able to lay off some pitches, that he's able to work deep counts, and that he's able to lay off those pitches close to draw those walks. And so, yes, he didn't put one into the seats. No, he didn't drive in any runs tonight. But I think this is the start of potentially him coming out of the malaise that he has been in to start this season. Those 3 walks, I think, were really, really telling, because we've seen him certainly at times press during this cold stretch to start the year. He wasn't pressing tonight. And that walk that he drew allowed them to pinch run Jose Siri. Jose Siri was able to steal second. Taylor drives him in with the insurance run in the 8th inning. That doesn't happen if Vientos doesn't draw that walk. So I wanted to make sure before we got out of here that Mark Vientos got his kudos, because, again, it's not going to stand out in the stat sheet tonight, but that's what these postcasts are for, to make sure that we highlight everything that happened in the game. And I thought Mark Vientos tonight showed me something, and you start to think that he may be coming out of what was ailing him at the start of the season. They are back in action tomorrow. It is Clay Holmes on the mound for his first home start of the season, and it is going to be moved up a little bit. It was supposed to be a 7:10 start, but because of the cold weather there in New York, moved up to 4:10. That changes nothing for us here on the Locked On Mets postcast. We will be here right after that game concludes to break it all down here on the Locked On Mets postcast, on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, and on the Locked On Mets podcast feed. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you are notified when we go live and you can join us. If you are already subscribed and this is your first time, what have you been doing? We do these after every single game. We hang out, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly for the New York Mets. And I got to tell you, despite it maybe not looking the prettiest, there's been a lot of good to talk about. How about 5 wins in a row for the New York Mets? They will go for their 3rd straight series win tomorrow. They will go for 6 in a row tomorrow. And Clay Holmes will make his first start in front of a Citi Field crowd. That is going to do it for us here on the Locked On Mets postcast. Another victory for the Mets, who move to 7-3. They are undefeated at home. They'll look to keep that going tomorrow against Miami and go for their 3rd series win. And we'll be here to break it all down. Have a good night, everybody.